So, there I was in Flint, Michigan, and staying with Sherry, and we stayed through November. I was still in Flint, Michigan, and I had no contact with my parents, and I couldn't cell phone anybody, and my family, I'm assuming, thought I was dead, or maybe was that girl that they had heard about, or I don't know. But I was doing rather well. And I had a whole wardrobe of clothes, even had suitcases. And I had money. And I was a great panhandler. I was cute. And Sherry taught me real well how to survive out there. It's just that, a panhandler. And so, we would go to different places. We wouldn't panhandle the same place. She'd do one place one time, and then the next time, I would do where she was doing, and this and that. So we weren't, and there was a lot of different places to go. So if somebody saw us once or twice a week, or once every 2 weeks, they didn't really notice us that much, It's like, oh yeah, that girl, I saw her a couple weeks ago here, But we weren't like daily people. We had daily schedules, just like a regular job. And there was a girl that lived in the building, a black girl, and she did not like me. And I didn't really know very much about black people, and I'm not being racist here, I'm just being honest. Back in that day, there was all the racial things that were going on, and I was raised in a white community, and I really didn't have any black friends or know anybody that was black or anything. But I did know that this girl that lived in that apartment building did not like me. She always threatened that she was going to beat the hell out of me, and Sherry often saved me from her, and I was scared to death of her. Just scared to death of her. And I was like really small back then, unlike now. But I mean, I was one of those girls that were tiny but big boobs, It was a shapely type girl, but and young. And so I would get home, and I would wait for Sherry to come home. She would usually be a little later than me. And she had mentioned that she had been seeing her stepfather around, and thought he might have seen her. So one night, she didn't come home. 3 nights she hadn't come home. It got so I didn't leave. I was afraid to leave the apartment. I didn't know what to do. The girl that wanted to beat me up and that she saved me from knew she wasn't coming home and knew I was there and would knock on the door and terrorize me through the door. And I didn't want to fight her, and so it wasn't working for me. So I got out and I called my parents' house. And I think it was my mother that answered the phone. And I don't know, I don't remember being like overly excited, yay, or pissed at me. I mean, I just don't remember the reaction. I'm sure it was one or the other, but I just don't remember it. But she asked me where I was and told me that the school had signed a warrant for my arrest. And she told me that the other girls had already gone through the process when they came home, and that they had gave all the boys' names that had took us over the state line and this and that, and they needed my testimony because they needed all 4 of us to testify so they could arrest these boys. And so she kind of filled me in on all that. And she sent my boyfriend up to get me. It was then that I came back. And a month again had passed, and my mother said to me, "Have you had any periods? I mean, have you..." And this is when, wow, gee, all that time I was in Michigan, I was pregnant, and I didn't even know it. And for my boyfriend, because I didn't have sex with anyone in Flint, Michigan. So, I mean, pretty know who the daddy is. And he came and got me, and he didn't yell at me either. He was just glad I was okay and stuff. But like I said, we didn't have, like, I could pick up and call him on his cell phone and say, "Come and get me," or "This is what's happened." The only way I could get a hold of him was call his parents' house. And his parents were real happy about our relationship anyway. So, needless to say, when I did come back into the community, the 3 girls I ran away with, were not allowed to speak to me. They can speak to each other, but they could not speak to me. And when I went to court, I was not allowed to have an attorney. I didn't have a right to have an attorney. I had a probation officer. When I went to court, the judge yelled at me that, "Didn't you take these girls over the state line for white slavery ideas?" And I didn't even know what that was. It was like, and I wasn't even the oldest one, and it was like, "What are you talking about?" You know? And my mother clued me in later that meant that I took them over to sell them or to prostitute them or something. It didn't matter. They dumped me. And I let him go, you know, because I wasn't going to stay with those guys. It didn't matter. None of what I said mattered. I was the last one for them to catch. It was an embarrassment that they was not able to catch me. I came home with suitcases of clothes. I came home on my own. But I ended up in the detention home and in trouble for the truancy from school. And that's when when we found out I was pregnant, so I was done with school. That was it. There was no going to school when you were pregnant. And why? Because my parents were financially okay. Why they didn't get me a tutor or private school me or anything, I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know. I don't know why. But they didn't, and I thought school was dumb, and I was sick of it anyway, so I probably wouldn't have done too good even with a tutor. But that's how that happened. And when I came back, the father of my child wasn't allowed to see me either. His parents thought I was trash, and we would sneak and run away together and all kinds of things. Try to run away and be together and things like that. The Romeo Juliet, you know, type things. And all I could think in my head is, I'll survive. Somehow I'll survive. And I did. So here I am. So I did survive. So that's one of my runaway stories, probably the major one. Just to let you know that I was a little tyrant. I did run away a lot from home. After that was my first runaway experience. But after that, I really felt, then I really had an attitude, you know. I felt I was pregnant, so I was grown up. I was an adult, and I knew how to live. And that's all the further my mind took it. My mind didn't take it any further than that. You know, like, you're going to have a baby. What are you going to do with your baby? And, you know, I was just so immature and didn't know who to ask or who to talk to or anything. And the one they were afraid to tell that I was pregnant was my grandmother, my dad's mother, who was, her and I were very close when I was young, and closer yet as I got older. And when she found out, she said, well, she's not the first in the family, and she probably won't be the last. And she did help me a lot, as much as a person can help another person in that situation, I guess. So that's the end of that runaway story. And as I said, I ran away the whole time I was pregnant until they finally just locked me up. So I'll go back and talk to myself again.